So we did just push out the updated evacuation maps. So those are live on both the Cressa site and on the county ArcGIS site. So you can go in there, input your addresses, and see if you guys are under a current either level 2 or level 3 evacuation. And those have been pushed out again. So if you need information, go to the cressa911.org website, and all the updated maps and links to that are available there.
Thank you.
So overnight we did see really good progress with the Nakia Creek fire. It hardly grew yesterday over the course of 24 hours. The acreage is now up to 1,869 acres. Containment is still at 12%, although we're hoping to make some really good progress on that today. Really at this point we're continuing to just do that good work on the containment lines. The goal is to complete those lines as quickly as possible to really keep this fire at as small a size as we possibly can, and then really just focus on that mop-up effort. We're working with law enforcement and emergency management here, just evaluating those evacuation levels, and as soon as we can drop those, that's going to be a priority to get people back into their homes as well as their businesses.
So the ODF has been in charge of this fire for about 48 hours. Since you guys took over, what has changed with organization and getting firefighters up on the lines to build those containment lines?
Yeah, so really what the team did was just bring in a lot more resources, and we were able to just build on that work that has been being completed by the local agencies. We just bring in a lot of extra equipment, firefighters, aircraft, things like that to really just bolster those efforts that were already being done here on the line.
Then aircraft, are they up in the air today? Is the weather favorable for that?
As you can see, the fog's burning off a lot faster today, and so we have been able to get some aircraft up. That's going to be a really huge part of firefighting today, being able to use those resources, especially in some really hard to get to steep areas.
And what kind of aircraft are you guys focusing on able to use? I saw helicopters the other day, but someone said they saw planes with fire retardant. Talk to me about the aircraft you guys are using.
Yeah, we have 7 helicopters that are assigned to this fire, 4 Type 1s and 3 Type 2s. We also have 2 water sweeper planes, as well as an air attack platform. And so air attack, really, they act like the dispatch of the skies, if you will. They just make sure that we're bringing people in, keeping them safe, and not having multiple drops at once, and just keeping an eye on what's going on and connecting with the ground as far as communication goes. So it's a huge asset to be able to use aircraft today. We haven't been able to for the past couple days just due to the smoke and the fog. It's going to be a game changer for us today.
Looking ahead at looking ahead at weather for the future, is it looking good? Winds picking up at all that would make it jump like it did last weekend?
Yeah, we are expecting winds to pick up a little bit today, but mostly tomorrow, and that is in our 48 to 72 hour plan as far as factors that we're looking at when we're creating our operational plans. It isn't expected to be anything like we saw on Sunday when we were seeing those giant runs. However, it is something that we're taking into consideration. We'd rather be safe than sorry, and we're making plans as far as that goes with our firefighting efforts.
And those are?
Really just being aware of that potential for increased fire behavior, and jumping on that as soon as we see things start to take off in an area that we're not comfortable with or we don't have resources on. What it really comes down to is just being aware of that fire behavior and what that looks like, and then getting the appropriate resources to it.
It'll significantly lessen the areas affected by the level 3 evacuation. So they'll be able to get people, especially off like Livingston Mountain and some of the areas of Lassard, back into their homes. And then they're going to change from levels 1, 2, and 3 to just go into levels 2 and 3 evacuation zones. And so as soon as those GIS mapping is complete, those will be posted on the cressa911.org, and we'll send those out through Cressa's social media and the Sheriff's Office social media sites as well.
Do you feel comfortable lowering those evacuation zones even ahead of maybe some winds coming tomorrow?
Yeah, and again, the way that those evacuation zones have worked the entire week or since we've been on this is we work in conjunction with the incident management team, and based on the intel that they're giving us, they have a conversation about what they're comfortable with, and when they're comfortable with certain areas, that's where we've made the changes to the evacuations.
And is the Sheriff's Office still doing patrols around the level 3 areas?
Absolutely, we still have people. We've had people overnight. We have dedicated deputies to each of those. We're still manning certain road closure areas coming in and out of there. Today we've seen an increased activity just into the DNR spaces, and so we've contacted several people and reminded them that the DNR has closed that area to recreational activities. And then they did end up making an arrest last night of someone who was kind of trying to go into one of the areas and didn't really have business up there. He ended up having a warrant completely unrelated to that, which is why he was arrested. But that's been some activity we had.
As far as the release of the car and the information for people, anything new?
Yeah,
Out
so
of-
actually, after I speak, Curtis Evanston, the fire marshal who's doing the investigation, will speak, and you guys can ask him questions related to, and he'll share with me the investigations for the responsible parties.
So they're in charge of that investigation.
Correct, yeah. And we'll work to help them in conjunction, but usually any type of fire, reckless burning, arson stuff is initiated through the fire marshal's investigators.
Any messages you'd like to send to people still waiting to go home at this point?
Yeah, just really to focus on check-in. Once they get the GIS stuff, they'll send out notifications as well of the different changes. So people should be getting notifications. Check the Clark 911 website, and once you're in an area where you've been removed from the level 3, yes, people are welcome to go back home. We'll adjust our road closures and our plan as far as deputies in those areas to kind of decrease that footprint and allow people back into those areas. And just remind people, if you don't have a business being there, you're not part of those homes, it's still not a sightseeing fire, so please stay out of those areas and let firefighters. Super critical too, as Natalie mentioned, there's like 500 personnel plus assigned. You've seen the size of this camp grow, so we really want, there's so much equipment and stuff moving, we really want to keep people out of those areas.
I serve as Deputy Incident Commander for ODF IMT 2. I'd like to begin by starting out to thank the community and the cooperators, especially for your patience and grace as we come into your community during a very stressful time and begin to organize and take action on this fire. We've had great cooperators that have assisted us. Some of them, like Washington Department of Transportation, State Police, the Sheriff's Office, and multiple others have been just really great in helping support us here on this incident. You know, I want to also state that, you know, it's very important for customer service, for this team to meet your needs here in the community, and really looking at those relationships. When we come in here into a community, it's about the relationships, and we may come here from Oregon just across the border as strangers, but we want to meet your needs and we want to be able to leave here as your friends. Excellent progress has been made on this fire to date. You've only seen about an additional 73 acres of growth from yesterday. A lot of that was just kind of interior burning of some of the islands and some of the pieces of different parts of spot fires that have joined together, but we're working really hard on those containment lines, especially in that southwest corner of the fire. As you've noticed, some of the evacuation levels have decreased, and we look forward for those continuing on a glide path down in the future here. There are over 500 personnel assigned to this fire, and I also want to let everybody know that this fire is the #1 priority in the nation. So resources that we're asking for, the things we need, we're able to get those, and we are elevated as the top priority. Again, the evacuation levels are lowering, and as Natalie stated earlier, we're thinking already 72 hours out ahead of what that might mean. Looking out ahead, the potential for rainfall. We're looking at that, and the potential of, could be a couple inches of rainfall on the fire incident. That's really good for the fire because Mother Nature is one of the best firefighting resources that we have out there with that rainfall. However, it's going to create some obstacles for us in the future. And so we're looking at the exposure to the firefighters that are out there with the cooler temperatures, the mud that you'll find out here, not only out there driving on the fire lines, but also right here in camp there could be conditions that, with the rainfall that we'll have to put up with dealing with that. So we're looking at that and taking action where need be. We're getting the fire as far as our objectives, and we're meeting those as getting the fire contained as quickly as we can, as small as we can, while the priority is maintaining firefighter and public safety. So a lot of times when we go in on the evacuation levels, we got to go in there, we got to make sure the fire is secure, because that is our #1 objective, is that firefighter and public safety. And as we see it's safe to get in there and that the fire behavior has been mitigated and managed, we will get folks in there as soon as we can. Thank you.
Can you describe the fire a little bit as far as is it an undergrowth or is it top of trees?
There's various intensities throughout the fire area. In places where you've had the fuels and the topography aligned with the wind, you'll see some stand replacement fires where a lot of the canopy gets up in the canopy and burns. But there's also quite a bit of the fire line area where the fire wasn't burning as intense. It was more of an understory burn. That is a little bit of double-edged sword in parts, because what it does, it doesn't maybe consume all the fuel. It might pre-dry it, so there is always a potential if you get the ember, you could get some reburning going on in there. And so that's some of the focal areas that the operations is using, is looking and identifying those places where we need to spend a little extra effort to prevent reburn from happening.
Fire in the nation?
Yeah, a lot of factors go into that. We do an incident complexity analysis and we forward that through. So what we look at is the potential, the values at risk, and when you have at one point in time on this fire, you had over 40,000 folks under a level of some levels of evacuation. It is a high priority, so life is one, and then also looking at the resources as well as the potential. Like I say, we're not out of the woods yet. There's still work to be done on this fire, but I'm feeling confident as we start turning the corner, as we get into Friday evening, we start seeing that rainfall. That'll be good. Today's going to be a little bit different of a challenge, just because we have the conditions are a little drier than they were yesterday, and as you can see, the sun is already out, and yesterday at this time it was foggy. So again, double-edged sword. The fire is going to be able to see, but now our aircraft will be able to see as well.
The homes that you run into as you're going into it, pretty well defendable. Everybody treated their house as well.
I have not personally been out there on the line. We can research that question there, but I will say that no structures have been lost in this fire at this point. All right, thank you very much.